We create supported housing as well, older persons living accommodation, which allows people to downsize, and that then frees up 3 and 4 bedroom family accommodation. And what you're finding is that actually tenants are displaying a higher sort of degree of vulnerability. Traditionally, the model of supported housing was that housing associations or charities would run this. They'd ask the local authority for stock, and it'd be the worst stock that you hand over on a peppercorn rent. Communities involved in the design, it means that in the end of the day they're going to be more accepting of it.
Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 Million New Homes, the local government challenge sponsored by Redloft and Bugler Developments. And I'm visiting a different council every month to find out what works and what needs to change to get more homes built. And this month I've come to Stevenage in Hertfordshire, and I've come to meet Ash Ahmed, who is the Senior Officer for Land and Development at Stevenage Borough Council.
Yeah, I'm Ash Ahmed, Chief Land and Development Officer at Stevenage Borough Council. I brought you here today to Dun Close, which is one of our supported housing schemes. And it's very important for our members that we try and create accommodation that's actually needed for our residents. And what we were finding that there's a backlog of move-on accommodation for people that were in existing supported housing schemes. And we were getting lots of young people approaching us homelessness, through the homelessness route, that had vulnerabilities, and they might be physical vulnerabilities or just that people never lived independently. And we created a scheme here that provides 27 units of accommodation, 6 of which are fully independent move-on flats, and a supported housing unit where people can learn to live independently, classrooms in there, shared kitchen facilities so they learn how to cook, and they get the management and the support really to thrive and contribute to the community.
Fantastic. Can you tell us a bit about the need for supported accommodation in Stevenage? What's changed?
Okay, so we've got 1,500 people on our housing register, but overwhelming majority, around 70 to 80% of that is for 1 and 2 bedroom accommodation. And in a way, we get criticised sometimes for building too many flats, but the idea is that what we try to do is create accommodation that allows people to move on. And we create supported housing as well, older persons living accommodation, which allows people to downsize, and that then frees up 3 and 4 bedroom family accommodation. So it's really about giving the community housing that they want to live in, and they then give up larger family accommodation.
Is it about more people requiring that kind of supported accommodation, or is it about there not being enough supported accommodation in the first place, or a combination of both?
So it's really a combination. So, up and down the country, local authorities' resources are being stretched to the limit. The housing register is getting more and more restrictive in terms of who can access affordable housing. And what you're finding is that actually tenants are displaying a higher sort of degree of vulnerability. And then, so more and more of our clients do have that vulnerability that we then need to cater for. The traditional model of here's your general needs accommodation, this is when your rent's paid, and you let the person sign the tenancy agreement and get on with it, isn't what's needed these days. Our housing officers are almost like housing professionals delivering support, signposting to housing benefits, to support services, to social care in some cases. So it's about giving those housing professionals the right sort of accommodation and the clients the right sort of accommodation so that they can make the most of life.
And you mentioned the Homelessness Act. So what happened there? What changed for that?
Okay, so what we found was a higher degree of our clients then were young people. Some of them, family breakdowns, child moves out, or others where families just simply couldn't cope because that individual has needs that go beyond living independently, so they have an element of care requirements. So that's where accommodation like this, it's not institutional. You'll see more when you look inside. It's actually designed to fit into the community, so that people aren't stigmatised, that schemes aren't stigmatised, and those individuals, I say again, that they can become like positive contributors to society rather than being left to sort of just wallow or not enjoy life.
Fantastic. And tell us a bit about what's special about specialist accommodation. You know, what's in the design and the build?
Okay, so for us, the key thing about this scheme is that it's designed as supported housing, but we could, let's say, if the need changes in future, it can be converted to self-contained accommodation. So whilst there's shared facilities in there, it's easy to convert it back into 1 and 2 bedroom flats. But what's key about it is that it's got on-site support, it's got on-site classrooms in there, and it's got kitchens that are really functional, but also you can teach someone to cook there. And the key for our members and for Stevenage has been that traditionally the model of supported housing was that housing associations or charities would run this. They'd ask a local authority for stock, and it'd be the worst stock that you hand over on a peppercorn rent. We wanted to break that model, and this is purpose built. And it could be, let's say, form part of a university classroom. It's that kitted out. It's got air source heat pumps. It's got high environmental credentials. It's cheap to live in, lower bills for the tenant. So actually, by providing this service, the council will actually get a rent from here rather than making use of, let's say, emergency bed and breakfast accommodation. So it's an all-round more sustainable model for us to deliver support and also to deliver sort of the fabric of the building for it to be sustainable.
So Ash, tell me how you got hold of the land in order to do this. What was this place before?
Okay, so I work in the development team at Stevenage Borough Council, and this was formerly an asset owned by our estates team. It's a garage site, but when we did some analysis of it, we realised that 2/3 of it was empty. So we worked with the garages team to actually decant some of the residents so that they concentrated into one area of the garage site and then freed up the rest of it for demolition. The site was actually subject to antisocial behaviour. You can imagine
empty garages.
Around, 90 garages here, and 2/3 are empty, and so there's fly tipping. Local residents are always complaining about that, so it was welcomed by them that we were going to do something here. Obviously, they're a bit apprehensive that it's a supported housing scheme that's going to go back in its place. But once we've worked with them to say, look, it will be managed, there will be on-site managers here, there is actually CCTV, and that actually, look, the people moving in here are sons and daughters of people, families in Stevenage, They're either disadvantaged, or got some kind of physical impairment, and that they need support. So the scheme's actually welcomed by the community, and during the planning process as well, we allowed residents in the local area to help us choose the bricks. And some of the rendering and the colour of the doors as well. And that was a positive at planning committee as well, something that members there deliberated on and liked to see, that actually community is involved in the design. It means that in the end of the day, they're going to be more accepting of it. But the support element's really key for us. Is we've got a stock of around 8,000 properties, most of it general needs, but where we've got people that aren't coping to live independently, what we want to prevent is tenancy failure. And the idea of these type of schemes is that, look, people move in here, they learn to live independently with supervision. They can then demonstrate that by moving into the move-on accommodation that we're standing out in front of at the moment. And from there, they go on and move into our general needs stock. They probably get employment along the way. And it's a really good success story for society, for the community, and for that individual.
And what's the cost to the council of this scheme?
This is a 27-unit scheme, and it's just under a £3 million contract for us. And we were lucky that the successful bidder was a local SME provider. And one of the things that we're finding with our SMEs is that they tend to be around £700 to £900 a square metre cheaper than your
Tier
PLC,
ones,
your larger developers, and on a like a house, that's about an £80,000 to £90,000 difference. On a scheme like this, that's about a £1.2 million difference. So that's what makes it affordable for us, and to do it within the HRA as well, where resources are a bit stretched.
So how many of these sorts of schemes is there need for? How many would you like to build if you were able to?
Okay, so I mean, supported housing is needed across the range, Toby, isn't it? You've got people with learning disabilities, people with mental health issues, young people that just can't live independently, and at the other end of the spectrum, your elderly residents that need independent living because they're over 55, 60 years, but don't need care. So across the board, we've got plans to build around 300 more units of supported housing, but that's older people and learning disability and young people.
Okay. And in an ideal world, what would you build if you had all the resources you need?
Okay.
What's their need for?
I mean, the need in total, well, we've got 1,500 people on our waiting list that's been audited as well. So prior to that audit, it was around 3,000 to 4,000. And so in terms of affordable housing, we'd love to be able to build 1,500 homes within the next 18 months. That would be an amazing story, and we're 100% sure that we'd fill those as well. In terms of the town, the need is a bit more wider. There's around 8,000 properties needed up over the next 5 years.
And what's stopping you building those 1,500 supported accommodation?
So capacity, resources, we've identified land for half of those, but some sites need a key bit of infrastructure doing, other sites need a bit of subsidy, so it's about getting around to those. And
so it's the complexity of the individual schemes.
Yeah, complexity of the individual schemes, but the industry as well. I mean, every time we go to tender, we get a lot of interest, but we try and program that in, and the winning bidder tries to row it back slightly. So I need to finish this job off, I need to finish that job off, and the program gets elongated that way. So there is a real capacity issue in terms of the jobs that the contractors out there to fulfil this role as well.
So you'd say it's more about the industry's capacity, the construction industry specifically, to deliver the homes that you have the capacity to bring to...
That's what we're thinking, yeah, Toby.
To develop.
Yeah, that's what our sort of last 3 or 4 tenders have shown us over the couple of years. And things are improving. Particularly post-Brexit and the supply chain issues that we experience. But yeah, no, there is appetite to deliver, but there is a real capacity issue as well.
And it's really interesting because the argument's often put that if you could offer the pipeline, the construction industry would have the security of knowing that pipeline's in place to put all of those resources in place to build its capacity. But what you're suggesting is that isn't happening, and you do have the pipeline.
So yeah, we've not witnessed it happening quick. I think it will probably take 3 or 4 years for them to do that. So I'll give you an example. If we gave this contractor 2 more schemes, they simply can deliver those over, let's say, the next 2 years. Yeah, they do 2 schemes at a time. That's their capacity. That's the size that they operate at. If we went to a top-tier builder, then we're going to have those increased costs as well, and then affordability is going to become an issue, and perhaps we need a bit more grant then from Homes England. I'm sure there's a middle ground somewhere.
So Ash, you mentioned about the sustainability sort of elements to this build. Talk us through those. It's not passive house, is it?
No, it's not passive house. It is we future-proofed it by complying with a higher level of building regulations. But it's got things like air source heat pumps to service the whole building, not just the move-on accommodation. Photovoltaics on the ceiling, as well as a fabric first approach. So just the overall insulation at floor level and in the cavities is that much more efficient. So we're expecting at the end of that, lower fuel bills, lower energy usage.
But there's a reason for not taking it to full passive house.
Yeah, so when we did the analysis at the start, we would have had to orientate the building in a certain way, and we would have lost 4 units on the move-on accommodation. And to us, that was too far a bridge to make up. We valued the capacity and to try and introduce energy efficiency through other measures. So we haven't got the label of passive house, which is nice to have, but we are making sure that actually the buildings do provide comfort, that they do have lower energy usage, and they're ahead of the game in terms of complying with building regs.
But to deliver all of that, your builder, your contractor, has had to go on a bit of a journey.
Absolutely, Toby. So they knew of our requirements, our desire, and they actually put in part of their social value that they would work with us. So it meant a 4 to 5 month longer program with them. But now they're skilled up to actually deliver at pace energy efficient buildings for us or for other clients. So it's something that they're really pleased that they can do, and we're absolutely thrilled because we've had the value for money out of them.
And in brief, what sort of skills have they had to acquire?
Okay, so they've worked with an M&E consultant as well. I mean, putting an air source heat pump on an individual property, you need to get certain things right, but it's relatively straightforward. But when you're talking about air source heat pumps that are going to service 27 flats, basically, it's a whole different game.
Yeah.
So it is the quantum, the level of the siting of the air source heat pumps, the supply chain and where you go to buy them as well, and how you monitor the installation, the warranties that go with that. They've had to really gen up on all of that.
So that's an example, and just one example, of how the council can support the kind of development of the SME construction sector.
Yeah, and it's important that we sort of define what we mean by SME.
Yeah.
There's some people in the sector still view SMEs being 50 to 150 units or something. Here we're talking about a builder that was literally building 3 to 4 units or 6 flats for general needs market sale.
So it's your local builder who might do your
Absolutely.
Extension or your loft conversion.
Absolutely, yeah. But Bob the Builder, for want of a better name. But yeah, so we'd seen some of the projects, so we had to get comfortable with them. We examined some of the buildings that they delivered previously, and we're quite happy with the quality. We made sure they worked with our employers' agents, so they understood our specification really, and the fact that we might at future dates be bidding for grants. So there's a whole level of quality that Homes England require, and so they've made sure that their back office understands all that. But one of the things that we really helped them with, which really saved us money as well, is the cash flow. One of the biggest things for an SME, their lifeblood, as it were, is the cash flow.
Yep.
And what they described was a scenario where they'd previously been paid 6 to 8 weeks by public sector organisations. So they stayed away from that. But we worked with them to understand when they would need to issue invoices and how quickly we could certify that through an employer's agent. So we've got that down to they're paid every 3 weeks, which in turn means that actually their borrowing requirements on their overdraft is lower and they save on interest there, which is a huge boost to them. And them being paid every 3 weeks as well means that their subcontractors, their supply chain benefits from that, so they get reliability and continuity of work, and the real sort of benefit to us is the value for money it achieves over the overall life of the contract for us. Yes, we're paying them quicker, so we might be losing out on interest, but we're talking nominal there. But the savings they're finding for us are around £700 to £900 a square metre, which on a scheme of this size adds up to about 900,000 to 1.1 million.
And presumably their subbies and their employees are much happier to work for them, so it's easier for them to keep that supply chain together, to keep their labour force together, so that you can deploy them on more and more sites. And they're telling me that they've got sort of 2-3 year foresight of schemes to come.
Yes, so they've looked at our local plan and they know what sites are coming forward, so they're learning about those. And that point about their localism is so important. At the start of this project, we had a bit of vandalism and antisocial behaviour. When the garage sites were demolished, people just came and dumped a load of rubbish here. And so the local neighbours were up in arms. Look, it's not even started building yet, and we've got this sort of disruption. So they complained through. Call went to the call centre, and we notified the contractor, and within 15 minutes there were people on site clearing stuff up. And so when the housing manager walked past and met some of the neighbours, they said, well, we knew they were local because they arrived on push bikes. And so that's how sort of appreciative the local community is, that actually local people are involved in building accommodation that local residents need.
Ash, thank you very much for your role in getting 1.5 million new homes built.
Thanks, Toby.
So that's it for another episode of 1.5 million new homes, the local government challenge, sponsored by Redloft and Bugler Developments. We're going to be back in a few days with more from Stevenage Borough Council. But until then, if you could hit like or subscribe, we'd be really grateful, and we'll see you next time.